And good evening. I'm Jonathan Higgins. Rich
I'm
Person,
Rich
and we
Carlson.
are live this evening on YouTube. So, how's everybody doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, me too. Not too bad. Hopefully, everybody's having a great night. We are the Scanner Guys, and we're brought to you by Scanner Master. So, we have a great show underway tonight. It's basically doing a road trip with a scanner, the reasons to bring a scanner with you. So, we're going to start off the slideshow right now, and let's always remind you that we are brought to you by Scanner Master. So, road trips and scanners. So, let's take a look
You
at
betcha.
some news that's going on right now. The Scanner Guys, some very important news. We are now on the internet. We have our own website, thescannerguys.weebly.com. The URL is right on your screen. You can sign up for our email newsletter, read more about us, and so much more. So make sure you bookmark our website, check it out after the broadcast, and subscribe to our newsletter. I mean, there's going to be some great stuff in our newsletter as well. So we're really looking forward to adding more content to the website, even doing some cool polls, which will be able to allow you guys to vote. That's going to be a lot of fun. What do you think of that, Rich? Being able to have some polls on our website?
Oh, that's going to be fun. We can put things in there like what topics do you want us to talk about? What's your favorite scanners, classic scanners, and such like that. So yeah, we can have a lot of fun with that.
That's for sure. We can definitely do that and so much more. So we hope that you guys check that out on our website. So let's continue on here. Road trips and scanners. Why bring a scanner on a road trip? We're going to cover that. GPS scanning, programming tips, and mobile accessories. So those are going to be the cool things that we're going to be talking about tonight. So let's continue on here. Rich, tell us why we should bring a scanner on a road trip.
Well, there's a bunch of different reasons. The main reason is for your own entertainment. Gives you something to listen to while you're driving. You can imagine driving for hours and hours and hours and listening to nothing but your spouse. Um, Sometimes it's a lot of fun to listen to something other than that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And yeah, and the next thing is going to be safety. You can, listen for things going on that might affect your trip. In our case, right now this is wildfire season, so we get a lot of wildfires. So listening for that gives you a good idea, a good way to avoid that. The next one is going to be a traffic update. You're driving along and you want to avoid traffic jams, the highway's closed, there's some police activity or fire activity going on, there's a crash, you want to know about that, so you're going to avoid that.
Weather updates is another good thing, Rich. You can typically hear a lot of times, where there's a lot of accidents, let's say there's torrential rain. You're going to be able to
Hmm.
hear some action from that. And a lot of fire departments and police departments, when there's severe weather like tornadoes and things like that, you may
Hmm.
hear some radio chatter on there about that stuff going on. And then
Yeah.
also, you and I both do this a lot, hobby exploring, for rail fanning and aviation. And a lot of
Oh
times,
yeah.
in both of our scanners, we're scanning the railroads, and of course, in yours, you're scanning those aviation frequencies. So that is awesome as well.
Oh yeah, we plan our trips to drive by the airports and follow the railroad tracks all the way across the country, and you got to listen to them on the scanner as you're doing it.
Yeah, that's for sure. You have to listen to them on the scanner in order to hear what's going on. And plus, if you're doing some rail fanning, you may be able to see a heritage unit or something cool coming through, and you may
Mhm.
be able to hear some radio chatter about a locomotive number, and you say, "Hey, that locomotive number, I believe, is a heritage unit."
Oh yeah, there could be special moves. There could be a train that's on a branch line that's very rarely used. There's all kinds of things you can hear to help your rail fanning, and even on a busy line where it's just nonstop action, you'll hear them chatting back and forth. You hear the detectors. You know that there's a train nearby.
Yeah, so that's all great things to be able to bring your scanner on a road trip. So plenty of entertainment, safety, and so much more there. So what we're going to cover right now, Rich, is some GPS scanning. And we've shown these slides, some of these slides in previous slideshows. But first, we're going to educate you on currently available GPS scanners ready to go. Those clean slate scanners, a favorite of ours, the 15X, also the BCD 325P2, the BCD 996P2, and then those database scanners. I know you're a huge fan of that STS-200 screen.
Oh yeah, the screen on the SDS-200 is phenomenal. It's huge. It's colorful. You can change it, do whatever you want, and all of the Uniden zip code scanners support GPS scanning as well. So that's a great feature.
So the difference in between the two of these is GPS scanning is the clean slate scanners need to be programmed for all the areas that you're traveling through. So you have to program in all the departments. And when you're importing in from radio reference, it's also going to import in the data, latitude, longitude that's available on radio reference. You can also sharpen that programming as well if you know how to do it through the software. Now with the database scanners, that information's already there, and you have the full nationwide database. So you're going to be able to monitor whatever the scan, if you're running it wide open, with the full database, as you travel, it's going to turn things on and off as you travel. As for the clean slate scanners, it's only going to pick up what you have programmed in there with GPS on.
Right. Yeah, the clean slate scanners, you have to do the programming ahead of time. The zip code scanners, you can use the main database, or you can do your own programming in your favorites lists.
Yes, and we're going to go over the benefits on the database scanners, favorites list versus full database. So that's going to be an upcoming slide. We'll kind of educate you the pros and cons of that as well. So let's continue on, and we've shown this slide before, Rich. Our favorite Mayberry. Yes. We show the Volkswagen Beetle here in green is hovering in between Lakeville and Mayberry. So as you travel, each one of these cities and towns on radio reference, unless you customized it with your software, is going to have a latitude and longitude center point and then a radius around it. As you can see here, the town of Lakeville has got a 4-mile radius, the town of Mayberry. So just envision all these cities and towns with a latitude, longitude center point and a radius around it. So it's covering the town, maybe slightly outside the town limits or city limits. And as you travel, you can see that the circle for Lakeville and Mayberry overlaps some. Yep. So when you're traveling in this part of the road, you're going to be hearing on your scanner, you're going to be hearing Lakeville, and you're going to be hearing Mayberry. As we continue down the road, we jumped down the road quite a bit. We moved away from Lakeville and Mayberry, so now in our scanner, look at all what we're monitoring now. We're listening to Sumner, Newport, and Boone.
Yep, and as you're driving, your circle is around your car, and that circle is going along with you, and as it intersects these other circles, they get programmed into your radio, and the ones that you leave are deleted from your radio.
That's right, and basically what your radio is looking at from the satellite is your latitude and longitude. So that's going to dictate what you're going to be listening to. It's going to look at the data inside the radio and say he's within range of Newport, Boone, and Sumner. So those things are going to turn on. As we leave that area, those will turn off and other things will turn on. So it's a continuation of turning things on, turning it off, turning it on, turning it off. So you're going to see things going on and off as you travel.
And now we get to see how it works.
Yes. Oh, look at all the components. We did a video. We're going to have to do another video on YouTube just alone on all the gadgets and gadgets of the GPS receiver. Look at all the radios that this is capable of. The BCT-15, the BCT-15X, the 436, the 396, the 996, T, XT, P2, 436, the 536 Home Patrol 1 and 2, and of course the SDS 100 and 200. What a mouthful! That's a lot of radios.
Oh, yeah.
For
Basically, any of the Uniden scanners that support GPS will work with this universal GPS kit. And it has all the cables and accessories needed to use to work with any of these radios. And depending on the radio you have, you're going to use the proper cable for it. If you've got an SDS 200, all you're going to need is the small GPS box, the receiver itself, and the gray phone type cable. If you've got any of the other scanners, you're going to use that larger box, which is an adapter box, and the cigarette lighter power cable, as well as the appropriate cable to connect to your scanner, which would be one of the 3 cables on the bottom of that picture.
Now look at all the various cables. We'll do another broadcast, just going over this accessory receiver kit for GPS scanning. I mean, this was quite a cool thing that Uniden came out with, but there's a lot to it, and you have to know what cables go with what radio. And Rich, you put together on the Scanner Master blog, that's scannermasterblog.com, you put together a really good entry there going over what cables go with what radio.
Yeah, and it does help you to figure out which cable, because admittedly the instructions that come with the kit are not quite as complete as they could be. So this will tell you which cable goes to which radio and how you need to set things up to make it work properly. There's 2 things you need to remember, is that this GPS kit uses a baud rate of 9600 baud. Whereas the other older GPS kit normally used 4800. And if you've got an SDS 100 or a BCD 325, this plugs into the USB port, and it will power the radio as well as power the GPS when you plug this cigarette lighter plug in.
Yeah, so this is all good stuff, being able to have everything in one kit. So if you own multiple radios and you occasionally use the GPS, and you don't use it all the time, and you use it occasionally with your SDS 100, or you use it with your 996, you have all the cables in order to do it, but you can only do it with one radio at a time. Actually, technically, right, you can do it. You can do it.
With yeah, you can. You're going to have to make your own cable.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I've done in my van. Is I have a 536 and a 996 P2 in there, and since they both have that same DB9 connector on the back, I made my own customized cable that takes the GPS to fit into the back of one of the radios into that cable, and then that breaks it out to the 2 radios, and it works great.
Yeah.
And I've had as many as 4 scanners in that same type of setup connected at the same time.
Yeah, and I had a similar setup in my vehicle where I have where I could connect to multiple radios at once, and that is really awesome. And you're the one that basically turned me on into that idea, and you told me, look, you splice this in together, and you can run multiple radios off of one GPS, and it works great.
Yeah, it does. And all it is the GPS is spitting data out. So you just need to have the data and the common wire going to your radio. And just as long as you figure out the wiring diagram, it really isn't all that difficult.
Yeah, maybe at some point we could definitely cover that in a broadcast if you want to be able to make your own custom.
A great stupid scanner trick.
Yes, a great stupid scanner trick that you provide, Rich.
There you go.
So let's continue on the slideshow. We're going to show that one more time, that kit with all of the cables. So we'll continue on, and let's dive into the programming portion tips. Now, this is definitely going to be a huge help for those of you trying to program your radio for traveling. I mean, these, it's quite a task if you're really putting together a fine-tuned listening experience as you travel. We're going to give you some really good tips. So let's continue on here with those. Now, with a clean slate scanner, you want to make sure that you plan your route. Do some research on radio reference. Program along your route. You may want to program in state police or highway patrol. So if you're on the big major interstates, you definitely want to program the state police or highway patrol. You also want to program the larger cities and towns that you're traveling to. The reason why, so let's say if you were
Hmm.
traveling up through the Boston area and you were heading up Route 93, a lot of times, in the larger cities, the they're more prone to have more accidents on the major highway. So you may want to monitor Boston Fire and Boston EMS as you're traveling through the city of Boston. This will give you the ability to hear some incidents on the roadways. Typically, for the non-larger cities or towns, um, you may not want to program the smaller places in because it may be chatter that you don't care to monitor, make your scanner super busy, and you may miss out on highway patrol or state police chatter that could be important to you. So that's the reason
Right.
you want to make sure that what's coming across your scanner when you're doing a road trip, it's information that you're going to be able to use as you're traveling. If you're traveling on the secondary roads, you may want to start programming in some of those local cities and towns. And of course, if you've got planned stops at some cities or towns, spending an
Hmm.
overnight, you definitely want to program that. You want to know what's going on in the city or town that you're spending the night in.
Yeah. And the other thing too is you may also want to look at the counties that you're going to be driving through and programming some of the sheriff's frequencies. A lot of times, especially out west, the sheriffs handle a lot of the activity on the on the interstates because the state police might be stretched a little thin. So a lot of times it's the county or even the city police that will be at these crashes first. So you might want to program some of those channels in as well.
Yeah, so take a lot of the stuff, like Rich said, some of the knowledge you have about various areas and apply that to your programming. And the other key
Hmm.
thing, too, is you want to check the GPS data that you've imported in. Make sure that it's in there correctly. And there's ways to check
Hmm.
it with the Butel software and so on. And you want to make sure that those systems and groups you enable GPS scanning. Because if you don't enable it, you can connect it all up, get on the road, and guess what? It could say nothing to scan.
Been there, done
Me
that.
too. I have done that. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So a lot of times,
Yep.
what I'll do before I send my programming to the radio, I will test it, make sure that everything's working properly, and then what I will do is program in my city, my home city and town, and try connecting it to the GPS and making sure everything is functioning with the GPS portion of it. And of course, it's going to show right on the scanner screen that the GPS is enabled. And the
Yep.
most important thing for doing this clean slate scanner programming is take your time. Don't rush doing the programming. You're gonna if you take your time, you're definitely gonna um, be able to find any errors or mistakes that you've found in the programming. So what I typically recommend doing is do your programming way ahead of time, let it sit for a bit, glance it over, and then if there's anything that you've forgotten, you still have time to put it in, and then
Yep.
program it into your radio, and then you're about ready to go. So now we're going to look.
Yeah. When it comes to programming a scanner, patience is a
That's
virtue.
for sure. So here we go with full database scanners versus favorites list. Now, a full database scanner may have too many things to scan when you're running the full database. What
All
that'll
right.
typically do is slow down the scanning speed. We already hinted already. So if you're on the highways and byways, the major interstates, you may not want to be scanning all the local cities and towns because you may miss out on highway patrol or state police communications. So that's going to
Yep.
be a huge issue, missing those, and you're not going to know about the accident or lanes blocked because of an emergency work crew or whatever it may be in your way. So
Yeah,
less,
and that's one flaw with the GPS scanning is that it doesn't differentiate between state police, county police, and local police. It's police, police, or police. It doesn't matter which type of police it is. So you're not going to be able to lock out just the local police and concentrate specifically on the highway patrol.
yeah, that's one of the things that you and I have talked about quite a bit. We wish that they made actually three levels of policing. One for the state level for your state police and highway patrol, the county
Yeah.
level, so county sheriff, and then the local level, which would be your local police. So
Yeah, city and
yeah,
county.
if
Yeah.
they had it that way, then you could control your favorites list when you're running the full. Actually, when you're running the full database, and if you knew you were going to be doing
Yeah.
a lot of highway travel, you could turn on state police and then county police, and then leave the local police off. Like if you didn't care
Yeah.
to monitor that. But that's something that would take a lot of changes, of course, on radio reference, and then the GPS radios would have to follow suit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do that for us.
No. So the other way to be able to get what Rich and I are talking about, the favorites list is the way to go, because you're going to pick
Yeah.
what you want in your scan list. And no missing radio communication along your route, because it's not going to be scanning, 500 things in one particular area. You're going to be just scanning. Let's say if you've set up a favorites list and it just has the state police or highway patrol, for that state, because you're just driving through it, then that's all you're going to pick up. That's all you're going to listen to. So the favorites list is the best way to do that. And we're going to dive into database scanner programming tips. So right at the top of the list, favorites list, favorites list.
Yeah, and let's repeat that again. Favorites lists, favorites lists.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that you're doing, if you want a fine-tuned listening experience, do the favorites list. Also, plan your route. Yet again, you want to plan your route. Look at the states that you're going to be traveling through if you're going to be doing a long haul. Do your research on radio reference. Program along your route. We're talking about the state police, highway patrol, larger cities. We already mentioned it. Cities and towns that you're stopping in. And you also want to check the GPS data on radio reference. You may have to do some tweaks to that in case it's not perfect. And also enable GPS scanning for those favorites lists. You want to make sure you do that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't...
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly the same thing you're doing with your clean slate scanner, is you're applying that to your favorites
Yeah,
list.
and if you don't have that enabled, guess what's going to happen when you start your trip?
Nothing to scan.
And that is not good. So, and yet again, the last bullet point on this slide, take your time. Take your time programming, and then, do it ahead of time, and then review your programming. Make sure you've got everything. Look at your route. Make sure you get all your highway patrols in there, or whoever you want to monitor along your trip. If you're programming some railroads, you may want to fine-tune that with the well-known railroad lines. The other cool thing that you can do with the database scanner, which we've talked about before, is creating a service search. And you can go into the national database on the Sentinel software, so nationwide database, and then you'll see U.S. railroads, and then you can actually create a favorites list with channels 1 through 97 of the railroad frequencies, and create that right into a favorites list.
The common aviation channels, or GMRS type channels, or whatever
CB.
Other channels you want to listen to, CB channels, yeah.
So you can do that with using a favorites list. You can create that as well. So let's go a little bit further. Rich, we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah, and it's worth revisiting as well. If you have a database scanner, it has an SD card in it. And if it has an SD card in it, these SD cards can get corrupted. And when they get corrupted, the scanner doesn't work. And it's going to get corrupted at the exact worst possible moment. You're going to be 50 miles from the house on the way out, and that card is going to go kaput, and you're off. The scanner is worthless when the card gets corrupted. Make a second card and keep it in the car with you. Keep it updated, just like you update the main card. And if the main card gets corrupted, just pull over. Don't do this while you're driving. Pull over, turn the radio off, take the old card out, put the new card in, turn the radio back on, and you're back in business.
Yeah, and you know what? And you've said this multiple times, Rich, and it's right on the slide. If you prepare for it, likely you won't need it.
The only time your card is going to get corrupted is when you don't have a spare, and that's Murphy's Law, number 17, I think.
Yep.
And you can help reduce the chances of your SD card getting corrupted. The biggest thing that gets a card corrupted is the replay option. So if you have a scanner that supports turning off replay, like an X36 or an SDS, turn off replay if you can, and if you're not using that option, because what that does is that increases the amount of times that the radio gets written, the SD card gets written to. So if you turn off that feature, the card isn't being written to as often, and it's less likely to get corrupted. I've had an SD card 536 in my car for 6 years,
Wow.
and I've turned off replay, and I turned that thing on and off with the ignition. I have never had a card corrupted until the one time when I didn't have the spare with me.
Yep, and that's Murphy's Law. And you said what? 17, number 17.
Yeah, Murphy's Law number 17. So I keep a spare card in there, and about maybe once a month, once every other month, I'll go out to the car. I'll pop the SD card out of the radio. I'll take the other SD card out of my glove box. I'll bring them into the house. I'll update them, and I'll bring them back to the car, and they're ready to go.
That's awesome. So we talked about this radio a lot in our next slide, so let's take a look at it. This is the BCT15X. A lot of people say, why do I want an analog radio?
Yeah.
This radio is awesome for railroads, marine, and aircraft. So
Yep.
why wouldn't you include this radio in with your radios in the vehicle? And why would you care? If you don't care about police or fire channels, then you should put one of these in your vehicle, because you can monitor the railroads, the aviation, boats, and etc. You can even do those CB channels if you want to hear what's going on with the truckers as you're traveling. And this radio has got a service search.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't have to listen, if you don't need digital, this is an ideal and affordable scanner for those that don't need digital. You can get two BCT15s for the price of the cheapest digital scanner. And if you're listening to aircraft and boats and railroads, it's an ideal scanner. I call it the transportation scanner.
Yeah, it definitely is. It falls in the category with with the 125 AT. That one's definitely a travel scanner as well. But yeah, for mobile radios, if you're not interested in police and fire, take a look at this one. This will be a great radio to put in your vehicle. Let's continue on with the slideshow. That brings us to road trip scanner accessories. So these are things that you may want to consider adding onto your scanner. We already mentioned one, the GPS, which is a huge component to be able to have on those scanners that are capable of GPS scanning. This antenna has made multiple appearances on the Scanner Guys broadcast.
Yeah. I love this little antenna. For $20, you can't beat it.
Yeah, it's the Spectrum Force wideband mobile antenna with mag mount. And guess what? It comes in both SMA and BNC. And I know, Rich, you're going to mention that this even works with the SDS 100 with the SMA connector. So
no, I'm not going to mention it. You already did.
But I know you typically mention it because, a lot of people ask, will this work with it?
Now, but with that being said, on the SDS 100, it's kind of a special deal. It's difficult to get the SMA connectors onto that, the ones that come on the cable, because of the little waterproofing ridge. You might want to consider, this is a time when you might want to consider using the BNC adapter that comes with the SDS and use the BNC antenna if you're going to take it on and off often.
Yes.
If you're just going to put it on once and leave it, get the SMA version. You're going to have less loss and less issues. But if you're going to be taking it on and off, you might want to get that use that BNC adapter that comes with the SDS. It makes it a lot easier to take the antenna on and off, and then you can easily screw that antenna adapter on and off.
Yeah, the other great thing about this is, let's say you're flying to your destination and then you're renting a vehicle and you're bringing like a portable radio to set up temporarily in the vehicle, like the SDS 100 or any other portable radio that you're bringing with you on a trip. Or even a home patrol would be a good mobile temporary radio and a rental. This antenna is small and compact, will fit in your carry-on suitcase. It's 17 inches tall, has 12 feet of coax cable. All in all, it's a great antenna for that too. So if you're not using your vehicle, want to throw an antenna up, start listening in the car, this is the ideal antenna as well. And the coax cable is relatively thin, so it's easy to snake through the vehicle, and you can make it look pretty nice and clean if you've got the vehicle for, for a
Yep.
long weekend or the week. You can put this antenna up and really and get great reception with it as well.
Yeah, I love this antenna. I've got several of them, and I use them all the time. Every time I get a new car, every time I use a rental car, I pop it on there until I get my antennas installed, and it just works really well. That magnet is nice and strong. Where I live, the speed limit's 75, so that means everybody's going 85, and I've never had a problem with it. It just stays on there.
Yeah, and it's certainly a great antenna. So let's take a look at another accessory that we have here at Scanner Master. This one I actually worked on with the owner of the company, Rich Barnett. He basically said we would like to have a carrying case for the Home Patrol. When the Home Patrol 1 came out, Rich thought this would be a novelty idea. So what I did is he told me to go ahead and design it. So I worked with a company that creates cases, and I ended up drawing up, some diagrams on the computer on what we wanted it to look like, and then they basically took those renderings and put together a case. There was a couple versions of this case before we reached the final one. Now, the good thing about this case that when I was designing it and with Rich's tips in mind, we wanted to have the Home Patrol so it would work inside of the case. We also wanted to have a compartment to store all the gadgets and gadgets that come with the Home Patrol. So basically, we got what you see here in the photo. So the first photo, if we go clockwise from the left to the right and then around to the bottom, so there is the scanner case with it closed. There is through the plastic, there is some holes so the audio can be heard through the plastic screen there. You can also
Hmm.
press on the touch screen through that plastic, so there's no problem there. You can still control the scanner. And the next photo, if we look to the right, you can see that the case is open, and you can see all the antennas, the AC adapter, all the power cords, and things like that are in the compartment on the top. So looking down at the two bottom photos, there's access point to the antenna connections, to the GPS, to the audio connections as well. So you'll be able to set this up in the vehicle and leave it contained in the case. Now the great thing
Yep.
is you can use this bag just to transport the scanner. So there are, which it doesn't show in these photos, there's actually flaps that cover these holes on the side that give you access points to these jacks.
Hmm.
So, you can
Yep.
have it nice and secure in there. I have the case. Luckily, I was able to design the case, and I got the one of the first runs of it, so I have one, and I use it all the time. Typically, what I use this for is I have a Home Patrol that I use in the camper all the time when we travel in the camper,
Yeah.
and I keep everything contained in there. So when we go do a camping trip, I'll pull out the scanner, I'll update the database, I'll create my favorites list, throw the scanner back in there, and then I bring the scanner with me, put it in the camper, and then we travel to our destination. Everything's in there. I don't have to go scrambling for my AC adapter or the cigarette lighter adapter or the antennas or even the BNC to SMA adapter if I'm using the Spectrum Force mobile antenna.
Hmm.
Everything's going to be in there. So you can see that the case size is 10 inches by 7 inches by 2 inches and a half. It'll store all the accessories. You can even store a couple of things in there, scanner related. Let's say if you need a couple other adapters for a few other radios, or an extra rubber duck antenna, the standard rubber duck antenna for your portable radio, you can put that in there as well. I mean, this is something that we came up with at Scanner Master, and this is something that you definitely should consider if you have the Home Patrol 1 or 2.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it works really, really well. And it like I say, you design it specifically for those scanners, so it fits it like a glove.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you can see you can operate it right inside the case. So if you want to just do that, let's say you're traveling alone, you got a rental car, so you want to just throw this on the passenger seat. You can sit that in there. It's confined to the case, so you don't have to worry about
Yep.
it flying around or anything. Certainly, it's well worth it. We do have stock of this right now, so if you want to place an order through scannermaster.com, you certainly can. In the comments section, not the comments section, but the description on this YouTube video, you'll see a link for that, and you can click there and you can check out more about this case and even order it through scannermaster.com. Let's continue on here. Another home patrol accessory. I'm a huge fan of this. This is a RAM mount. A lot of people may be familiar with RAM mounts. So Uniden partnered up with RAM mounts to create a windshield mount. This is a heavy-duty mount. This is designed for the Home Patrol 1 and 2. It has a heavy-duty 3.5-inch suction mount, which will go right to your glass. The arm is adjustable. It's 5-inch arm, so it's adjustable to multiple positions. And it also has that Home Patrol mounting bracket, as you can see there in the top photo. The Home Patrol is off there, and then in the second photo, you see the Home Patrol on. The Home Patrol has got a little bit of weight, so it's not a light radio. So you need a heavy-duty windshield mount, and this works awesome. Yet again, this is something that you can use in a rental car as well. Suction this up to the glass and the windshield, just like a GPS.
And it works great with that Spectrum Force antenna.
Yeah, and the matter of fact, Rich, the Spectrum Force antenna is connected to this Home Patrol that's on the photo. There, you can see the little thin cable there, and of course the power connection.
And the neat thing about this mount is that on the bottom, the two little tabs on the bottom of the Home Patrol, there are two little slots those tabs fit into, and then on the top there's another little slot for the top thing. So it snaps in there. So once it clips in there, it's not coming out until you take it out. So it's going to be nice and secure.
Yeah, this radio is not going anywhere whatsoever. So that's a really cool accessory. The other cool accessory that we sell quite often is this amplified Uniden external speaker. And why do we tend to lean towards the amplified speakers, Rich?
Well, in a vehicle, you're going to need the extra audio boost because of the noise. And scanners, especially handheld scanners, are not designed to provide that much audio. Otherwise, it would really drain the battery quickly. So with an amplified speaker, you can use your portable scanner or even your mobile your portable scanner or your mobile scanner, and be able to actually hear it even with the windows open. And you crank the volume up on this thing, and they'll hear it in the next car over.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is what I use in the truck, and that's the thing. I hate not being able to hear the scanner. And if it's a beautiful day and I want to have the windows open, if I don't have this external amplified speaker connected to my scanner, I'm not going to be able to hear it that well. So with the external speaker, it works great. There's a volume control. You can kind of see it on this photo on the left side. There's a volume control, actual volume control on the speaker, and you can turn off the speaker if you turn it all the way down, and it'll click off.
Yep. Yeah, and a mobile scanner like a 536 or an SDS 200 996, it has pretty decent speaker audio, but with the windows open, you're still not going to be able to hear it. And an amplified speaker will help that out quite a bit. If you've got a handheld scanner, you definitely need an amplified speaker in a car, even with the windows closed sometimes.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is typically on those radios, the speaker is down on the bottom. Depending on how you have the scanner positioned in the vehicle, it may not be in the best direction for you to be able to hear it. With this portable amplified speaker, you can point this in any direction that you like. You're installing this on your radios. You're installing this in your vehicle, so you can have it, in any direction you like. So you can have it aimed towards you, so the sound will go towards you.
Absolutely, and you can position it so that, like you say, you can so where you can hear it the best, where the audio is best going to serve you. I've seen people with trucks mount these above the driver, between the driver and the passenger seat on the headliner. I've seen people mount it on the firewall of the car. on the transmission hump. It can go almost anywhere.
Yeah, this is certainly a great speaker. Let's take a look at our next item. This is something that I haven't used. How about you, Rich? Have you used one of these before?
I actually put one of these in one of my older vehicles. I don't have one in my current one, but I did have one in my older vehicle. This is kind of a neat little device. What it does is it monitors if you have a two-way radio in your car, like a CB or a ham radio. It will detect the fact that you're transmitting, and then it'll mute the speaker on your scanner. And so, especially if you've got close call or you're getting some sort of crosstalk or something like that, when you're transmitting on a radio, you don't want that audio to be coming out of the speaker or the scanner. And sometimes you'll get it no matter what frequency your scanner is tuned to. And this will prevent that nonsense or just the audio of this scanner from being broadcast on your two-way radio. And this is a really neat thing if you do have a two-way radio in your vehicle.
Yeah, I certainly. I used to have a two-way radio in my vehicle, and that would be an issue. Being able to be transmitting, and you don't want to be
Yep.
drowned out by your scanner audio, and then whoever you're communicating with over the two-way radio, they can't hear you, and that becomes a huge
Yep.
issue. And especially for a lot of our friends out there that are volunteer firemen or in law enforcement, and they have scanners in their either their personal vehicles or their work vehicles. This would be a great
Yep.
option. Especially if they're monitoring other agencies on the scanner, and they do have to
Yep.
occasionally transmit to the dispatcher. To have this in there to be able to mute your scanner, this is certainly a great thing, and we
Yeah.
do.
Or if you're a ham operator and you're talking on 2 meters or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, because you don't want to be drowned out, and then they'll be like, "What the heck did he say?"
Yeah. Oh yeah, and especially like I say, you don't want to have that scanner chatter going on in the background. And a lot of times, if you're transmitting on a two-way radio, it might key up on the scanner as well, and then you're getting feedback, and it's just a mess. So this will make things a lot better for you.
Yeah, let's see here. So I think that's about it for the accessories. Just want to we'll bounce back to us before we go into some of the other things that I want to mention to you. So all those things can be found on the Scanner Master website. We do have links in this broadcast in the description below. So you get direct links to be able to look at all those things. Everything from the GPS accessory kit that we have on our website, all the accessories that we mentioned are going to be right down here in the description. So if you're looking for additional
Yep.
information on those particular items, we hope that we kind of educated you on, of course, programming, what to program, what methods to use, and of course some accessories and features that you could certainly use with your scanner. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through some slides here. We're going to go over a couple of things. We'll hit some questions. So if you have questions, post them now in the comments. We will answer them in the comments, and we look forward to that. And if you're watching this in the replay, if you've got questions, we're going to show you a slide where to email those questions. So let's show the slideshow a little bit more, and then we'll go to your questions. So in the past couple of weeks, we've been showing some of your stupid scanner tricks and shack photos. We are looking for some more of those. We love seeing what our audience shack photos look like, and we also love seeing your stupid scanner tricks. So this is the email address you want to email if you want to send us shack photos and stupid scanner tricks. You're going to email thescannerguys@gmail.com. That's thescannerguys@gmail.com. Let's continue on here. Make sure you sign up for the Scanner Master newsletter. You can sign up at scannermaster.com. At the bottom of the page, you'll see a button down there to sign up for the newsletter. You'll be able to get information about upcoming sales, new products, and so on. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter there. And here's the email address you're going to need for any support questions or any questions if you're watching this in the rebroadcast and you have some follow-up questions. You want to make sure you email them to support@scannermaster.com. That's support@scannermaster.com. And then make sure you give us a call at 1-800-722-6637. That's 1-800-722-6637. We are open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you shop us. Scannermaster.com 24/7. We're open at scannermaster.com. But if you need support, call the 1-800 number. We're open 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to just email us, just do it at support@scannermaster.com. That email address is monitored in between the hours that we're operated from Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So you'll definitely get a response back from us in between those hours. So if you email over the weekend, definitely we'll respond back to you on Monday. So let's continue looking at a couple more slides and then we'll grab your questions. Next week, we will be back on at a regular time at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, and we'll be covering Rail Fanning 101. That's Wednesday, June the 17th. We'll be broadcasting live right here on YouTube, so make sure you set a reminder on your phone. Tonight was a little bit different with the broadcast. We had a couple of glitches, but we're happy to be live even though it's a little bit later. So we hope to be on at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live right here on YouTube. And as always, the Scanner Guys are brought to you by Scanner Master. So make sure you support Scanner Master. That'll keep those live broadcasts coming at you. Make sure you check out my blog, which is trainaficionado.com. And you can also check out the social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at those addresses. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, it's at Train Aficionado. On Twitter, it's Rail Aficionado. And how can we forget our social media for Scanner Master? Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to Scanner Master on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also do the same for the Scanner Guys. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and our Instagram account. So make sure you do that, and we'll take it from there. So let's go into questions and answers, and we'll do that right now. So what do we have, Rich?
Alrighty. Well, we taking some stuff from the phones recently. We get people calling all day long asking about the SDS 100s, when they're going to be back in stock. We got some in today, and they went out in 7 minutes. So we had some come in last week. We had like 3 different shipments last week, and they went out within an hour or so. So they are going out as quickly as they come in. So if you're looking for an SDS 100, be sure to go to our webpage for it. Click on the little link on the bottom there that says email me when back in stock. And when you get that email, respond to it right away, because they are going out as quickly as they come. We do have SDS 200s in stock. We are running relatively low on those, and I suspect those will be out of stock sometime tomorrow. We are hoping for more shipments of these and the other scanners, but obviously with all of the stuff going on, the supply chains are kind of messed up, and we are hoping to get more of each of these type of scanners that in soon. We've been telling our distributors to send us what they have as soon as they can get it. So if we don't have it now, be patient, and we can we'll work on getting more of those for you. We do have a few people we want to say hi to. Our buddy Lincoln from San Diego is out there. Or got a couple Joes out there. Howdy, guys. 2 different Davids. So hi to both of you. My buddy Brian in Iowa, when we were talking about the SD card and his 536, he had that exact same thing. And smart guy, he had his spare in, and then he turned off the playback feature. So, yep, good work on that one, Brian. Obviously, you have watched us before. We got John in Alaska. Howdy. It's probably about lunchtime there. So,
with us being on a little bit later this evening due to the various things we had to deal with, we got a lot of West Coast, or the western part of the country on tonight with us. So welcome aboard. I'm sure a lot of you probably watch us in the replay because it's you're still at work or you're driving home.
Yep.
This is not going to be the norm. At least we hope not.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we got it all fixed, and like I said, we apologize for the issues, but it's a combination of them and us, and hopefully we got it all going, and it'll be much better next week.
Yeah, and plus we're going to be covering our favorite topic, rail fanning. So we've got to hope that
Yeah.
everything is flowing the way it should.
Oh yeah. Well, when we're talking about trains, everything is going to work good.
Yeah.
Um, Steve, we're just back in time for Steve's internet to go crazy because of the storm.
Oh, I've heard about, there's been a lot of
Yeah,
storms across the country today, and there's been a lot
yeah,
of
they
areas.
they got nailed in Chicago yesterday and this morning, I guess, and I guess that's moving east now. So it's that time of the year.
Yeah, the time of the year, we're almost into July for the heat wave and all that, and you've got
Yeah.
all types of craziness going on weather-wise.
Well, we had rain here uh, two 2.5 months ago, I think it was. So, but we're gonna get a dust storm pretty soon, so that'll be fun. And it'll probably be the day after I wash my
Yeah,
car.
I'm sure,
So,
and then you'll have to rewash it again.
um, and yeah, no, sorry, Steve, we don't get to start late tomorrow. We're just gonna get a short night of sleep tonight and be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. I mean, um, yeah, I was thinking about that. I said, "Oh my word!" Usually we're
yeah,
off by 10 o'clock Eastern time, and we're almost at 10:46.
yeah. So yeah, it's still much better than what is on Facebook. So yeah, that we're gonna stick with YouTube. The problem really wasn't on YouTube's end; it was some software issues. So now that we got all that fixed, we're good to go. Mike asks if we recommend the SDS 100 or the 325 P2 for DMR close call. Either one of them would work if you have the DMR update in your radio. The problem with DMR close call is your portables and mobiles, they only talk on one time slot, and that kind of messes with the close call operation on any DMR capable scanner. So you'll be able to hear the repeaters because they transmit on both the time slots most of the time. But on a portable or a mobile radio, they're usually only transmitting on a single time slot, and that time slot is not active long enough to trigger the close call often. So you can listen to the mobile inputs and hear them just fine, but close call is not going to be very effective on the mobile units on DMR or phase 2 P25. It's just a fact of life, and either scanner is going to have the same issue. Your best scanner is the one that you have. So either one should work just the same. And he also bought his SDS 200 from us. Thanks.
Thank you so
We
much. We
appreciate that.
appreciate it.
And when you're scanning the full database while driving, should you set the range to 0?
Yes.
Uh, Normally, yes. Um, when you set the range to 0, that means as you're driving through an area, you are going to be picking up the stuff that is germane to that specific area. If you set your range to anything higher than 0, then that expands the area, and you're going to be picking up stuff outside that area. So that is a good trick, is to set the range to 0 while mobile, and you'll only pick up the stuff that is actually being used in the area that you're in. So that's a good tip there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a largely populated area, sometimes you'll even pick up a lot, even at 0. Let's say if you're up in the Northeast, where a lot of the cities and towns are relatively close to one another, so there's a lot of,
Yeah.
if we go back to that slide, a lot of the circles will be overlapping each other quite a bit. So
Yep.
that's where, see, I was from the Northeast. I spent almost my whole life in Massachusetts, so I always created favorites lists for the GPS scanning, on those database scanners, because I would get slammed with so many departments coming at me even at 0. So out in the western part of the country, a lot of the cities and towns are a lot further away. So that, putting it in 0 may be good enough to be able to do that. But in those large
Yeah.
metropolitan areas where there's a lot of population and a lot of cities and towns and a lot of agencies, you still may get slammed with a lot of things to monitor.
Yeah. And make sure you know how to use the avoid button.
Yes.
We spoke about that earlier. With the avoid button on the database scanners, when you tap the button once, it locks out that channel or that talk group or that department or that system until you turn the radio off. It's called temporary avoid or temporary lockout. And it'll lock that item out until you turn the radio off. And then when you turn the radio back on, that system, that channel, that talk group will come back on again. If you double tap that avoid button, or on a home patrol you select permanent avoid, it will lock out that channel. It won't erase it from the radio, but it will lock out that channel, and it'll stay locked out until you actually go back into the menu of the radio and unlock either that or unlock all the channels. So that can be a very useful tool if you're driving through a metro area and your GPS scanning has picked up stuff you're not interested in. Just tap that avoid button and it'll go away. If you're just transiting the area, just tap it once. Don't bother. You don't have to bother hitting it twice, and it'll lock it out, and you won't have to listen to it. So it's a great annoyance relief. Joe asks a question: is the GPS data automatically imported via Sentinel, or do you have to manually import the data? So
Good question.
It's a great question, and it depends on the scanner. So if you've got a database scanner like a Home Patrol, one of the X36s or an SDS, if you're scanning on the full database, you will have the full radio reference database at your disposal, and it will select all the channels from that database that match your geographic location, your range, and your service type settings. If you are using a favorites list, or if you're using a clean slate scanner and importing from radio reference, you import the specific agencies and channels and systems that you want, and then you can apply GPS
And enable it.
enable GPS on those systems and groups. So it depends on what scanner you got and how you program it.
So on the GPS scanners, when you create the favorites list, there's going to be an option up under, I can't remember where it is on the Sentinel software. I don't have my Windows-based machine up. But you're going to go up, I believe it's Edit, if I remember correctly, and then it'll be Profile Settings or something like that. And then what you will do is you'll see a list of all of your favorites lists that you have in the scanner. So they'll be all listed there. And what you can do is you can turn on enable GPS. So you can turn on, that's the key thing when you're doing a favorites list. You want to make sure that you enable GPS scanning. So when you have the GPS connected up to your scanner, it will enable it. As for, the clean slate scanners with the Butel software, you're going to look for a section in there where you can enable GPS scanning. So it'll be able to read that latitude and longitude. If you don't turn that on, that system will stay constantly on, no matter where you're at. It's not going to turn it on or off. So I've done that before on a road trip. I forgot on one of the systems that I created in the software, I forgot to enable GPS scanning. So I was like, why the heck is this, so-and-so staying on? I'm far enough away from there. Why is it not turning off? Come to find out, I forgot to check off enable GPS in that system, and that will basically stay on the whole trip. You'll have to, when you get stopped, safe to do so, you can turn off that system, but you got to remember, the next time you do this road trip, make sure you enable that on there.
So in Sentinel, you edit the favorites list, and then when you edit the favorites list, there's an options tab, and that's where you can turn location control on and off. And you can also do things like set your favorite keys and stuff, or your startup keys. But it's under the edit favorites list and then options, and then turn on and off location control. And because he had asked specifically about Sentinel. If you're using other software like an ARC product and stuff, it'll be a little bit different, but that's going to be the gist of it. You can do it like Jonathan said, you can do it from the radio itself by pressing the menu button, editing that favorites list, and go into the system options for that. But like I say, when you read it from the, when you rewrite the scanner, it's not going to be set that way in Sentinel. So you're either going to have to read the scanner so that you get that in there, or you fix it in Sentinel.
Yeah, so it's definitely something you have to do. You just have to make sure it's enabled. If it's not enabled,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. Especially on the zip code based scanner. On that radio, if you forget to enable it, it'll have a nothing to scan.
Right.
So that'll create a huge issue. You'll be very frustrated when you get to a certain area and you forgot to enable, such and such place. It'll do like a freaky thing, nothing to scan, and it'll just drive you insane. You'll be like, darn
Oh
it,
yeah.
why didn't I do that right? So
All right. Well, Brian has a question, and then another great question for road tripping. He had to use the avoid button quite a bit when he had close call turned on because he was always picking up FM radio stations. And Brian, have we got a tip for you?
If you press the menu button and then go to search close call options,
And pardon me while I look at the radio while I'm doing this.
and then you go to broadcast screen, and then you can go to set band, and you can turn on broadcast screen. Now this is kind of backwards. You turn on the broadcast screen to turn off FM stations from hitting your close call. So when you turn on broadcast screen for a specific type of thing, you can turn it on and off for paging frequencies, for FM broadcast, for UHF or VHF TV, weather channels, or you can even set up filters for a range of frequencies, so that if you get a lot of close call kits on 32 megahertz, you can turn off 32 megahertz on there. So that's the ideal thing for you, Brian, just to turn on broadcast screen for FM, and that will block FM stations from hitting your close call. And let's see here. Mike asks, on the SDS 200, do we recommend multiple favorites lists or one favorites list with multiple system quick keys to most efficiently turn systems on and off? So if you're not using location control, you're probably best off using multiple favorites lists. Jonathan, I think you probably agree to
yeah,
that.
I definitely agree to that because a lot of times if you're not using the full, the GPS scanning, you definitely want to do that. And of course, let's say you don't have a GPS and you've
Right.
set up a favorites list for the state police or highway patrol. Most of them are on a trunking system, so you're going to become out of range for particular sites. So it'll
Yeah.
kind of do what it's meant to do. So once you're out of range of that site, it'll then pick up the next site, and then it'll pick up any talk groups that are associated with that site for that particular troop. So
Yeah.
with state police scanning, without a GPS or highway patrol scanning, most of them are on trunk systems. You're going to become out of range of that particular site on the system, and it'll go to the next system site.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would
Same thing for doing counties. Where I live, we have 15 counties in my state. So I have favorites lists for each of the counties, and each one of them's got a separate quick key. And we have some of the counties here that are so big that it's not geographically possible to put them all in one favorites list efficiently. So I'll have one for North Coconino County and South Coconino County, because that could be 300 miles away. So, it's a huge county. I mean, it's the size of Oklahoma, I think, or something like that. And, so I'll have a couple favorites lists for some of those larger counties and one for each other county. And then I can turn them on and off just with the press of a quick key.
And the reasoning behind that, let's say if you have a really good setup in your vehicle, you're going to be picking up these signals on the fringe, and it could get a little bit annoying, especially if once you get to a point where it starts to hiccup. It'll blip, 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 and you don't want to be, your scanner's going to try to drag that signal as far as it can, but there's going to be a sweet spot where, well, not really a sweet spot. It's going to be a spot where you're just close enough to be able to pick up enough data from that digital signal that's going to start to hiccup, kind of like, with analog systems. You would get to a certain point, it would get staticky, and you would be able to just make out what they're saying, but it was not clear. So that's another reason with GPS scanning is you're going to eliminate some of that. So once you're beyond the fringe of that system, where it starts to get a little bit muddy, the audio, it's going to turn off before then.
Yeah. So you're always better off to have more favorites lists that are more specifically targeted to your specific area. And CB Ben has a question. Would we upgrade from a 536 to the SDS 200? And what would he gain? Because he's got a 536 now and an SDS 100 he can use with the mag mount. The reason you would want the SDS 200 instead of the 536 is if you listen to a lot of simulcast stuff, or you like that big display. And so if that is an issue for you, then the 536 or the SDS 200 is a reasonable update from your 536. It's a lot of money though, so you have to take that into consideration. If simulcast is not an issue and the color to screen doesn't trip your trigger, then the 536 is still a great radio. That's what I've got in my vehicle, and part of the problem I have with putting an SDS 200 in my vehicle is I don't have room for it. And I know you've got your SDS 200 in your truck, but you've got more room than I do.
Yeah, I want to be able to do a little bit more reconfiguring in there, hopefully at some point. But yeah, the 536 I have here in the office, right in front of me, and I love the radio. It's a phenomenal radio. I love that it's so simple to program. I can have a whole slew of favorites lists. The other thing too that I've done, having more than one 536 is being able to have the same favorites list shared amongst the same radios, and then turn on different combinations of favorites lists. So like, maybe I'll run these 3 favorites lists on one radio and then the other 3 on this one, and then I can switch the combination around. I could, you can do so much with it. But if you're not in a simulcast area, 536 is still a great radio. Even if you have like a 996 P2, still awesome radios. I mean, Uniden has a lot of digital radios in the top of their lineup because for different factors for different things. Some people like the clean slate scanner, so that keeps the 996 P2 kicking. Some people like the 536 because of its cost. Yeah. It's not as expensive as the SDS. That's why Uniden hasn't discontinued all the other radios, since the SDS, is because there's still a demand.
Right. Yeah, and the prices are quite a bit less on the 996 P2 and the 536 than they were when those radios were initially introduced. So they're a great value. And like I said, they're great scanners. I've got 3 536s. I just picked up a couple used ones, and believe it or not, a lot of people who've had the original batch of the 536s and the 436s. Some of those had some issues with the display and with the memory battery. And Uniden had a repair program that even if the radio was out of warranty, they would fix those. And those radios first came out 8 years ago, something like that.
I can't believe it's been that long, but yeah.
Yeah, it's been 7 or 8 years now, I think. But they are still repairing them. If you have one of the original radios, and I just acquired 2 of them, and they were from the original batch, and they had never been repaired. They were in a different application, so they never got sent back for repairs because they didn't need it. Well, now I've got them here, and I was using them here, and they're just very dim, and I was getting that memory battery issue. So I signed up for the repair, and I got a notice from Uniden about 3 days after I signed up for it, and they sent me a mailing label, and I sent them back, and they're going to be fixed, and I'll get them back in a week or so. And so they're standing by their products. I'll give them some kudos for that.
That's for sure.
They realized there were some issues, and they're fixing them. Even and the radio's been out of warranty for forever. So I'll get another question from Chris, who asks. If he's got an amplified speaker, is there a way to have it powered from the vehicle battery instead of an independent 9-volt? Well, Chris, the amplified speaker that we sell, the one that we displayed here, the BC-23A, is powered off the 12 volts of your car. It has a red and white wire, or red and black wire for power. And so you power it off the 12 volts in the car, and it does not have an internal battery in it. So, that's it, the point's kind of moot there. You don't have any choice but to power it from the vehicle because it does not have an internal battery. If you were using batteries on that, then it just wouldn't last long enough. So it does have a 10-foot long power cord, and you just power that right into the fuse box. You can use the same fuse tap as the radio uses.
Yeah, and the other thing too with that particular speaker, if you don't want to run it to the fuse box, you can wire it with a cigarette lighter adapter. I've done that before in the
Right.
past, and I believe we carry the cigarette lighter adapter that you can just attach to the end of that, and you can do that as well. And
Right.
that's
Yeah, that speaker does not come with that. So if you want that, make sure you buy that
Yeah,
separately.
and that's what I had to do is add that on
Yep.
separately. But yeah, the I just shown the speaker just
Yeah.
for a moment there.
Yep, and we do have the power adapter if you want to use a cigarette lighter plug. It's an extra 9.95, but if that's what you want to do, you can do that.
Yeah, and there's the speaker right on your screen right now. It's a 4-inch amplified external speaker. Its model number is BC-23A. As Rich mentioned, 10 foot of coax cable, and it's an 8-watt amplified speaker. Maximum power is 15 watts, and it's got phenomenal sound coming out of that speaker. I'm using that with my SDS 200. The 200's got
Hmm.
phenomenal sound as it is. Adding this just only made the experience even better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And now your neighbors can hear it.
Yep, that's for sure.
So, well, that's it for the questions tonight, boys and girls. And I hope we educated you. And if you have any other questions, Jonathan's going to pop the slides up to have the contact information, and you can go ahead and send those to us, and we will be glad to answer them when we can.
Yeah, so let's just wrap through everything one more time through the presentation with the important slides. So we want to make sure that you remember that you can send us your stupid scanner tricks. Those are those unique things that you came up with that are not really stupid, they're really cool and smart. But we like to call them the stupid scanner tricks. Make sure you send those over to us along with your shack photos. You can email them to thescannerguys@gmail.com. That email address is thescannerguys@gmail.com. Next week's broadcast will be Rail Fanning 101, where we're going to talk about rail fanning with a scanner. That'll be Wednesday, June the 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live right here on YouTube. And we want to make sure we remind you about my blog. Check it out, trainaficionado.com. Make sure you hit the like button on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. And also follow us on Twitter as well at Rail Aficionado. So some good stuff going on there. I hope to sit down and write some more blog entries. The latest blog entry, which we're going to kind of cover next week, is why should every rail fan have a scanner? So we're actually going to tell you the great benefits of having a scanner while rail fanning. So that'll be on next week's broadcast. So we want to make sure we remind you to follow, like, and subscribe to Scanner Master on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, at scannermaster.co. That's scannermaster.co. And then for the Scanner Guys, you want to make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to us as well on our social media on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at the Scanner Guys. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You get alerts when we're live or when we post a new video. So make sure you do that tonight after the broadcast. If you're new to the broadcast, make sure you do that. Or if you're watching it on the replay, certainly do that so you won't miss a single video. And if you made it this far in the replay or in the live broadcast, congratulations. We're happy that you were able to join us this evening. We hope to be back at our regular scheduled time next week. There was a few hiccups at the beginning of the broadcast, but we were able to get through them. So we hope that you enjoyed this, and we will have so many more topics to cover. And you can watch all of our videos right here on our YouTube channel. We're also posting those on our website. It's thescannerguys.weebly.com. There'll be a link to that as well in our YouTube channel. right up on the top banner. So if you're on the homepage for our YouTube channel, there's a link there. There's also a link to our social media. And also all the products that we discussed tonight are going to be down in the description of this video. So make sure you click there if you have if you want to learn more about that speaker that we just shown, or the GPS accessory kit that we have. You can purchase those all through our sponsor, which is Scanner Master. So anytime that you're buying things from Scanner Master, you're supporting the Scanner Guys show. So if there's no more questions, we'll wrap it up for this evening.
Sounds like a plan, and we thank everybody for watching, and especially thank you for your patience. And hopefully next week things will go very smooth.
All right, so I'm Jonathan Higgins from the Carolinas.
And I'm Rich Carlson.
And
Rich Carlson from Phoenix.
We'll talk to you again next week, right here
Later,
on
guys.
Twitter. Not on Twitter.
Late.
On YouTube. Have a good night.
On YouTube.
And we'll talk to you again then. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.